Welcome to Delicious and Nutritious, where we cook the tastiest food using the best quality ingredients. Today we are going to be making no-bake energy ball bites. This is absolutely a fantastic recipe. It's super simple, no bake once again, really good and thorough. So I'm excited about this one. I'm going to have two recipes pinned in the comments below because there's gonna be two variants. Number one, there's gonna be the almond butter variant, or number two, it's gonna be basically either using walnuts or cashews. So let's get right into the ingredients right now so we can start making these delicious bites. So what we're gonna need is we are going to need a cup of walnuts or cashews. I would say preferably sprouted, especially if you like walnuts, but you don't really like that aftertaste of like that chalky flavor from the actual walnut. And then it calls for 3/4 cups of shredded coconut flakes. And then we're gonna be using dates as well. So it's calling for a cup of dates. Preferably it's gonna be organic, number one. Number two, it's gonna be medjool dates. They do have a higher mineral content, as we do talk about. And then we're gonna need a tablespoon of coconut oil. Do remember that it's gonna need to be liquid. And then we have sea salt. So the base requirement for me is gonna be sea salt. If you wanna step it up a notch, as always, we talk about pink Himalayan sea salt or the gray salt. They have the most mineral content. And then we're gonna be using 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So that's very important. I choose the non-alcoholic one if you guys do want. And then finally, we have chocolate chips. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. These ones are gonna be Lily's. And the things you're gonna need some measuring cups, measuring spoons. You are also going to need a bowl to mix these in, and then you're gonna have to freeze them as well for storage. And then we are gonna use a food processor. Yes, we finally have our food processor, so let's jump right into the recipe. And here we go, guys, with the trusty food processor. So we're jumping right in. We have our first and foremost, we are not taking our own advice and sprouting it this time because of time constraints, but guys, trust me, if you wanna sprout the entire thing, that's the best way to do it, and then you could just store it in a mason jar. 1 cup of walnuts going right into the blender. You don't wanna over process these. It's very important not to do that. Okay, we have them food processed into small pieces. If you want them more fine, you can do so. This is going to require a cup of medjool dates is my preference. Dropping it in there, and then we're just gonna start food processing it. Again, we wanna really make sure that all of the dates are intertwined into the nuts and they are not separate. And sometimes for this, you're gonna have to pulse it. And then you're just gonna wanna look at the consistency as you go. You wanna see what's going on with this dates. Is it kind of congealed into the recipe, or are they still separate? And you're definitely gonna wanna have it on high power if you're using a food processor, which is really kind of like the only way to do this. We now have this finished. We now have this recipe all ready to go. So food processor part is done. Pretty super simple. Make sure that we get everything off of those blades. And now we are gonna bring out the bowl, and we are gonna sub the food processor for the bowl. Everything came out right there, and now we have the mixture in the bowl, and we're gonna start adding in the other ingredients. Okay, so now that we have this done, I'm going to recommend that you add in 2 things here. If you want to do the coconut flakes, you can do so just to do it. I would probably fold those in, but if you're doing the oats, I would prefer to add those in afterwards, but we do have the salt. This is gonna be a pinch of sea salt, so I prefer probably about an 1/8 teaspoon or so. And then we are gonna have a teaspoon of vanilla that we're gonna go ahead and add in. And then we have a tablespoon of coconut oil. Obviously, it's going to have to be melted in order for us to accomplish this. And back to our wonderful food processor. There you go. So now we're gonna switch it from the food processor into a bowl. All right, let's get the recipe right in there. So this recipe does call for 3/4 cup of coconut flakes. If I was doing the coconut flakes, I would add it into the food processor and just pulse it slightly, but we're doing oats for mine. I think it kind of gives a little bit different of a flavor. So I'm gonna start with a 1/2 cup, and then I'm gonna see how I like it. Because this is no bake, you can, guys, try it. So I would suggest starting a little bit under and going with that. So that is gonna be our oats right there. And then finally speaking, we're gonna be folding in the chocolate chips as well. So this recipe requires, or calls for, 3 tablespoons of chocolate chips. So we're gonna fold this together and then we're gonna try it out. All right, so using our hand here, folding everything together, and then we're gonna clump it into balls. And the balls are gonna allow it to be able to be the cookie dough bite-esque right here. And then when we do it, we just pick it up, we fold it into little balls. I would suggest grabbing a dish, putting a little bit of coconut oil on it, and then placing these evenly spaced out on the dish and then putting them in the freezer to go. Then as it does freeze, it's gonna get them a lot more hard. Right now, obviously, you know, I've been using a food processor, which does heat up the food a little bit, so they're a little bit more mushy right now, but once you put them in the freezer, they're really gonna start congealing together and they're gonna be a great consistency. All right, guys, there you have it, the no-bake chocolate chip cookie dough bites that are delicious. This is gonna be a slam dunk. This is great for energy, great for if you're on the go and you need something great to snack on, but just remember they are frozen, so they are going to start to kind of thaw out over time. It's not gonna do anything bad to them. They're not gonna be as stuck together as if you did right off the bat. So, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm excited to cook more delicious and nutritious recipes to change the world one bite at a time.